Hi, it's Nick Stekovich, Project Manager Evolution, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to become an IT project manager. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to How to Become an IT Project Manager. And so for today, we're going to do the same thing as we did in one of the previous videos. I'm going to jump over to my magic Amazon board, and then we'll just take a look at all the different steps of getting into that career path of being a IT project manager. Okay, so to begin, we're going to start first of all with our title, right? How to become an IT project manager. Okay, great. So let's take a look at what is the path of an IT project manager, right? So we've got someone that's from an IT background, right? And that person can be maybe a coordinator, or perhaps maybe like a QA manager, or maybe this person is like a business analyst, right? Or maybe like a solution architect, right? All these roles are pretty much all techie, right? When we take a look at the non-IT, we've got like many different roles. It could be from any type of industry. It could be like, operations, to maybe marketing, or maybe like finance, right? So you could be like maybe a social media marketer, as an example, in marketing, or it could be like a copywriter, or it doesn't really matter. You could be coming from any of these fields. Like in finance, you could be like a bank teller. Eventually, you progress to be like an analyst, financial planner, or some sort of an analyst. And then you want to kind of get out of that local banking office into like a corporate office, right? So you want to become a project manager. And then also, in any of these industries, it could be more than these industries that I've indicated, but you could have roles again as maybe like a coordinator. Could be also like any type of a manager, maybe like a manager of, finance manager of some sort. And it could be also pretty much any role, right? And it doesn't need to necessarily be, I feel that you don't necessarily need to be in any specific role prior to jumping into project management. There's a lot of people out there that are saying how you need to be in a specific technical role, or some sort of a role which you had exposure to IT in order to become an IT project manager. But I don't necessarily think that that's the case, because as long as you follow a certain process and pattern, pretty much most of the projects are the same, except for the ones where obviously you have to use like a hybrid model, which is kind of a mixture of agile and waterfall. And specifically if you become like a scrum master, or along those lines, especially if there's like bigger projects and a lot more teams, then it gets into complex situations, and then it does kind of require you to have that hands-on bit of experience to manage those projects. But going back to our board, there's a lot of questions that people ask me about. Well, what about things like Scrum, right? What about Agile? And what about Kanban, right? So these are just some of the roles that are obviously very different than an ITPM role because of its nature. And in one of the other videos that I talked about is I kind of distinguished the agile versus the waterfall, and then also there was another video talked about the differences between the agile, the waterfall, and the hybrid, right? And really the differences between an IT project manager and a Scrum Master is that an IT project manager pretty much manages like financials, manages all the cross-functional teams, manages the early scope definition, is also part of the initial business case, and the whole business aspect of coordinating stakeholders and pretty much making sure to manage from end to end of a project, right? Or as opposed to a Scrum Master. Scrum Master is more of a kind of a dedicated person or a real facilitator versus an IT project manager, which is kind of like accountable for and responsible for the delivery of the entire project. The Scrum Master pretty much is a person that just makes sure that the product owner and the dev team and the entire team that's dedicated specifically to working on that specific agile project is kind of being taken care of, right? And there are, in some roles, financial obligations where you have to, as a Scrum Master, manage other things, but that's kind of, again, a hybrid model. Not really necessarily a pure Scrum Master role, because that kind of jumps over to this ITPM side, right? So, and that's again, something that we'll discuss later on. What is the role for a Scrum Master and what you need to do in order to become a Scrum Master? So we'll discuss this in later videos, but today we're specifically just focusing on how to become an IT PM, right? One of the other things, obviously, that we want to talk about here is the actual job description, right? So, like I mentioned in the short form just a minute ago about what this role is about, really, this person oversees process of number one, planning. Number two, managing. Number three, leading. And number four, delegating responsibilities to accomplish a certain IT goal, right? And that goal is either service or product, right? Majority of the cases. And beyond that, kind of get over there, the skills and the qualifications for this. And let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about skills and qualifications. So the first thing that you probably would need as a IT project manager is to have the ability to solve problems. That's kind of given, considering that you're going to be managing, a whole bunch of teams, and you're going to be doing an end-to-end management of the entire project or service, right? The second thing is the ability to inform others. So, like a well-versed communicator that's going to be pretty much working with every levels of the company, in the company, to make sure that every aspect and every step of the project has been successfully executed, right? The third thing is technical management. And for that, obviously, you have to have some sort of a background in tech, right? This kind of goes back to these roles here, QA manager, BA, SA. Maybe you can even put dev. Like there's a lot of developers that eventually, once they become Senior developers, they transition either to like a director of development or manager of the developers, or he or she becomes an ITPM, right? So that's the other option, right? And aside from being a techie and inform others and problem solve, you also have to do staffing, right? You have to have the ability to understand how to manage different teams, cross-functional teams, matrix teams, and work with everybody. Beyond that, also you need to be able to manage financials. And what I mean by that is, forecast, work ahead, ability to control costs by monitoring and controlling, which we'll talk about in future videos regarding that. And also the ability to procure. So you are also going to be involved in some form of procuring, whether that's going to be vendors or perhaps maybe something else. But you will be involved heavily with management of any resources or anything related directly to the project, right? And then the last item is tools, right? And tools can be tools for scheduling, tools for resourcing, and it's kind of assumed that in order to be an effective, a successful ITPM, you really have to understand how to manage people. In order to manage people, you need to know how to create project plans, Gantt charts, the ability to create work breakdown structures, RACEs, requirements matrices like RBS, and many other steps and documents in order to have a better control of the entire project, right? So in a nutshell, these items are pretty much what an ITPM is. And beyond that, we talked about the paths, we talked about the skills and qualifications and the job description. Beyond that, there is something else, which is the trainings. So we want to talk about trainings, right? And when we talk about trainings, there are really three types of ways. The first one is the general, right? The general training, which encompasses infrastructure, so things that you need to physically manage, so like servers or any hardware or anything that's going to be part of your project. Then the other side is also software, which is programming and creating applications and so forth. And then beyond that, maybe also how to manage vendors and I would say the business side of stuff or things, right? Second one is called ITIL, and it's basically a certification that helps you understand how to manage complex infrastructure. In some organizations, they do require ITIL, especially if you're going to be a dedicated hardware project manager. Now the question is because when you think about PM project managers, everybody again is thinking about this thing called PMP, right? So for purely hardware-based project manager, most likely you won't see PMP requirement, but you most likely see ITL because it focuses exclusively on infrastructure. And the last one that we have is the ITSM, which basically explains or helps you get really good at delivering IT services, right? So in a nutshell, these are kind of the steps and career path to become a IT project manager, but there's obviously a way how you can easier get into this field, and with the help of Project Management Revolution. So what is Project Management Revolution? Project Management Revolution is a mentorship program which is 8 weeks long, and it specifically caters to individuals that are looking to jump into project management from either if you're in an existing tech position, or perhaps you're not. Maybe you're coming from a business background, maybe you're coming from a different industry that maybe is not business, and you're looking to become a project manager. Well, this training program, this mentorship program, gives you that ability to jump from your existing current position into a IT project manager role, or a project manager role that's related with IT and technology, by following an 8-week program that helps you understand how to manage, first of all, people, especially because project management is all about communication, is all about managing and leading teams and leading companies and vendors in the overall accomplishment of delivering a product or service or project, right? And then beyond that, there's a specific theoretical approach to managing projects that are waterfall and agile, as well as hybrid. And with that, there's also real-life project simulators, which each one of our students goes through. And they're basically an identical replica of what actually happens once you do land a job in project management as a project manager, like an IT project manager or maybe a business project manager. And that's those specific points and items and steps that you will go through. The real project simulators will actually be the steps that you will use for your actual future job or maybe your current job. So take the advantage of getting to understand what Project Management Revolution is all about by clicking the link below and scheduling a free strategy session with us for 30 minutes. And we'll evaluate your submission, and we'll see if you qualify, if you match what we're looking for. And then based on that criteria, we'll get in touch with you, and we'll speak to you, and we'll define a blueprint, which is going to be a successful plan how to get you to that next step of becoming a successful project manager. And there's also another link below that is related with our Facebook group, and it's a closed private Facebook group that is free, as well as the strategy call. And it basically introduces you, if you're just a newbie in project management, you know what project management is all about, some of the key points that I mentioned here, but obviously with a lot more content, a lot more videos. And there's also engagement. So there's others such as yourself that have joined this community. And we do try to help you, first of all, introduce you to this industry and this role of being a project manager. And then we slowly transition you into a state where at some point you yourself realize that, you know, perhaps this is something that will be helpful for you, and that you like the approach that we've set up in our training programs. And then you take that opportunity to jump on these free strategy sessions, and we help you get to your goal, which is, again, to become a successful project manager. So thanks everyone for watching this video, and looking forward to the next video.